Welcome to Listen to This Bull Live. This is our second Breaking Bull episode on the California wildfires. There is so much going on with that set of wildfires, one of the largest disasters in known history is from an insurance standpoint. This time I've got Doug Quinn and Megan O'Shea with the United Survivors Disaster Relief and the American Policyholder Association. We're going to be talking about how you can get involved in helping the victims of the fires, but also how policyholders or the victims themselves can start keeping an eye out for insurance carrier fraud and what to do if they start seeing that happening to them. So without further adu, let me bring these two people on. Doug and Megan.
Hi. Thanks for having us today.
Of course. It's always good to have you guys on, but Megan, I haven't seen you in forever, and it sucks. You had a replacement. She's okay.
I mean, I do love her, but you better not love her as much as him.
No one could. It's impossible. So, Doug, you've been very, very active over the last year. I don't really want to dig too much into everything that's going on with the APA in the past, but I just do want to say that congratulations on the amount of progress you've been able to make for policyholders. I know that I've been working with you on a lot of different things and been into several hurricanes, wearing the USDR shirts and giving out money and things. We have a lot of victims right now, though, in California. Can you talk a little bit about what someone going through that might experience?
Yeah, we know from personal experience, fire is the worst natural disaster. They're all bad. But look, my house flooded. I was able to kind of dig through and save some pictures from the mess and a couple of items. Fire leaves you a foundation and a chimney. And certainly if your house is in a total loss, what the fire doesn't destroy, the smoke contaminates and the water damages. So it's complete. And many people in fire will just escape with the shirts off their backs. Many cases we've seen in the past with the Paradise fires, the Camp Fire, the Woolsey fire, they have to leave their pets behind, their horses. People get caught in traffic jams and the fire catches up to them. So for the people that weren't able to evacuate in time and had to sort of escape with their lives, there's going to be significant trauma involved with that. We do a lot of education with disaster mental health. We work with the Institute for Disaster Mental Health out of New York, wonderful organization, and we want to educate people on disaster trauma. But what a lot of people are experiencing, and even those who didn't necessarily, just escape, ahead of the flames, who were wise and evacuated early. And look, these fires are still moving. Don't be brave. If you're listening to this, by all means, evacuate. The decision to evacuate, if it's the wrong decision, is not a big deal. The decision to not evacuate, if it's the wrong decision, is life-threatening. So we encourage people that, stay away from these fires. The winds are bad and the fires are still moving. So by all means, get out of there before they tell you to evacuate. We know what traffic is like in the Los Angeles area on an average day. I can't imagine what it would be like when they pull the plug and start evacuating people. But again, you're going to see a lot of people who are in shock now. And disaster trauma is this dirty little secret that nobody talks about. It impacts people's cognitive ability, their decision-making ability, their ability to grasp concepts. There's a whole set of behaviors that we have that, we see that people exhibit, and the longer they're displaced from their homes, the more those mental health issues will grow. So there is a set, and I don't know, Matt, if you show graphics, but I can certainly provide you with a list of how to deal with people who, just evacuated from a fire or a disaster, what kind of limitations they have, what's the best way to communicate with them. Case in point, it's better to give them multiple choice questions than open-ended questions. It's important that people feel a sense of safety because, they were in an unsafe situation. So they have to have that perception of safety with where they are now. And you also don't necessarily want to do things for people, which is our instinct, but disaster survivors struggle with a loss of autonomy. So it's important to empower people to act on their own behalf and advocate for themselves.
That's very important to understand. There's so much just going on in these people's lives that they really can't think about much else. And when they're in the middle of this, they might act very differently than they normally would, and that's normal. So with the amount of devastation that's going on, there's going to be a lot of victims here, and especially everybody that's leaving, coming back into town after the fires are gone, and they see their homes. They can have a very similar response at that point as well. So what is it that everyone else that's watching out there that is getting, I don't know, paying attention to this, feeling all the empathy that humans feel, how can they help? What is something that can be done?
Let me just real quick address your last point, which is people returning to their homes, because we do have resources for that. As a matter of fact, after the Calf Canyon and Hermit's Peak fire, or in the middle of it in New Mexico a few years back, Megan and I shot a video right here in the hallway of our offices, sort of letting people know, number one, how to emotionally prepare to return to your home, how to handle that, because it is very traumatic. It's very difficult for people going into their neighborhoods. And then also the safety issues. Disaster zones are very, very dangerous places. And many people get injured, sick, or even killed after the disaster is over, because cat zones are full of hazards, compromised structures, live electrical wires, contaminants from smoke, etc. So if you go on the APA website, if you go on the USDR website, you will see that video, and it's under the resources section. And it just sort of gives people some advice on how to prepare emotionally to return and view their neighborhood and their home and what's left thereof, and also the safety pieces of how to make sure that you're safe while doing so.
That's a very good point.
The video is also on our YouTube page. You can find it on our Facebook, and links even on our Instagram as well. Okay.
So if people want to get involved, I'm about to post up this website. This is the United Survivor Disasters Relief Organization, which you started, Doug, after the things that you went through. Is that correct?
That is correct. We lost our home in Sandy and everything we owned, and people came from all over the country to help us. I was very moved and very impressed, because we didn't think people really liked New Jersey, but getting that kind of love from other areas of the country meant a lot, because when you suffer in a disaster, people very much suffer in silos. Even though your neighbor might be going through the same thing, your face is in the mud, you're suffering in a silo. And to sort of get that love of the nation, to get people to come and help. I had Mormon kids from Utah come help gut my house. I had a bunch of kids from Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina, come help clean up my property. It meant so much. So a few years later, when we saw Hurricane Harvey hit Texas, it was simple. We threw a bunch of stuff in our van. We put a post out for our friends. They loaded us up with supplies, and we drove 27 hours down to Houston and started, dealing with people and helping them. And that was where we got the idea that it was, number one, it was very helpful to the people to be able to deal with somebody who has already been through this and navigated through it. And number two, it was very helpful for us, people who had been through trauma, been through a disaster. It was very therapeutic to be able to jump into the middle of somebody else's nightmare and be helpful. So that's why our motto is survivors helping survivors. And we bring trauma survivors down to cat zones, and it works out well for all involved. And we just it grew from there. It just started from throwing stuff in our 25-year-old Dodge van to, now we're an actual 501c3, converting to a public charity. And we have actual methods and procedures and SOPs and a set mission that we do to accomplish.
Well, that's fantastic. And Megan, you basically run the organization at this point, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
no, not even a little bit, but I'm always here to help Doug and Heather with whatever they need.
Okay. So if people want to get involved in this, what's the best way that they can do that?
You
I
know,
would
the
say-
best way, I'm sorry, Megan, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say just reach out to me or Doug. We're easy to get in touch with. You could find us on Facebook. You could also reach me at O'Shea@USDR1.org. And we could always find something for you to do, whether you're looking for something local to us or when the next disaster hits.
Yeah.
M. O'Shea at USDR1.org, like this.
That's right.
There it is. And if they want to get involved more financially, monetarily, that's great. But what if they want to get involved more physically? Is that you still reach out to you about this kind of a thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the money piece is important. Obviously, like every nonprofit, the finances help make it happen. We have a lot of people who they got plenty of money, they don't have the time, and they want to help and they don't know how. So certainly being able to help us with the financial aspect to support survivors is big. And then for the people that want to, we're a 100% volunteer organization. Nobody gets paid. So we all have 10 other jobs and 10 other hats we wear, but this is important. So the people that want to get involved, there's all kinds of things. We need help with, on the computer side, we need help with research. We need help with gathering data and intelligence for disasters. We need help with creating graphics. We need help with, the website. So there's always pieces that if somebody says, hey, how can I help? Let us know what your skill set is. What are you good at? And we'll find a way to plug you in.
Gotcha. All right. What is it that you need most right now for the wildfires, though?
What we're focusing on at this moment is because we'll be deploying within the next few days, at least for a preliminary mission. We generally do multiple missions to every disaster. Preliminary mission, what we're looking for is intelligence. What you're looking at is, money is one, obviously, because we're not loading supplies locally and driving. We'll be flying in and sourcing supplies in the disaster area. So because it's, thousands of miles away. And then intelligence, which is, look, I know the public adjuster community and the contractor community, the attorney community are all licking their lips about these $50 million homes. And good on you for that, but USDR works the other end of the spectrum. We work primarily with, working class families, people of limited resources who tend to get ignored in the recovery, who don't have the kind of money and the resources to recover. It's great to see these celebrities that lost their home and, but they'll be flying on their private jet to their south of France home, by tomorrow. Not to say that they're not suffering. I was in the Malibu, the Woolsey fire in Malibu in 2018, and those incredibly wealthy people in Malibu have the same traumatized, distraught look on their face. The emotional piece is absolutely real, but they do have more resources to fall back on. So we look to help the under-resourced people. So right now, it's sort of the intelligence is where are the working class and low to moderate income communities that were impacted by the fire? Where are people evacuating to? Where are the shelters, that we can actually find the people and help them out and do some disaster outreach? And those are the kind of intelligence pieces. Look, I'm a planner by nature. I want to know before we deploy where we're going, where we're going to land, where we're setting up, who we're helping. And that's just not practical in a disaster. It's chaos. Infrastructures are broke down. Things are in silos. The reality that exists in one small neighborhood are very different than the realities in another neighborhood. So what we kind of have to do is we just get there and we drive into the heart of the chaos and we figure it out from there. But the more intelligence we can get in advance, the more helpful it is. So while your constituents, Matt, the public adjusters of the world and the attorneys of the world are in these areas, if you see, the lower income families who are struggling, if you see where there are resources available for people, connect us with that. Let's share information. We'll certainly share our information with the professional restoration community, the claims community, so that when you're dealing with people, you can give them this info. But where are public resources that are available? Where are, who's serving hot meals? Who's giving out supplies? Where are their shelters? Where is their mental health advice? We look to gather all that and disseminate it. So that's sort of where we're at this very moment. just before. We're looking to, marshal some financial resources that we can bring to bear out there. And we're also looking to marshal a collection of resources that we share with the survivors when we're doing survivor outreach.
So that's perfect. So anybody that watches this channel on a regular basis, if you guys are out in California, if you're planning a trip out there and you get there and you start to see everything while you're out there looking around, trying to help as many people as possible, keep an eye out for the most underprivileged, the ones that need the most help, and reach out to Megan at O'Shea at USDR1.org, or go to UnitedSurvivorsRelief.org and send them a message to the website and let them know where the best or the most needed areas are, so that so they know where to direct the resources the most for the most benefit.
And we'll be putting out, the information that we're gathering. So feel free to, print up what we're putting out and bring it to people, because that's value added. Look, you want to show people you're not just there to make money, right? We know it's a very compassionate community and that you're there to help people. But sometimes there are certain segments of the industry that want to portray you just as money-hungry ambulance chasers. And we certainly want to prove that that is not correct, because I know many, many, many compassionate people who do a lot of work helping others behind the scenes for no compensation that are in the restoration and the claims community. So let's keep that going. And certainly, we'll be posting our information, the disaster mental health hotline, the suicide hotline. We'll be posting where supplies are, where hot meals are being, and print that up and bring it when you go out in the field and share that with people, or send people links.
That's a great idea. It's a great idea. Megan, anything to add on that?
No, we're just always here to help. If you have any ideas, just get in touch with us, please.
Sounds good.
Meg, were you able to do generally when we have a disaster, Meg does a disaster synopsis for us. Where are you at with that? I know you probably haven't had time to complete it yet, but can you give?
Completed. I am working on it. I could send it out to anyone that would like it, or maybe we could put it on Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah, that's great. And then do you want to maybe just kind of give us a synopsis of your basic understanding of the situation as it is now? We know it's in flux, and we know that, most of these fires are not anywhere near a small percentage of contained. So it's a very much evolving situation.
So typically, from my understanding, October to April is considered the wet season in California. And as of right now, they've only gotten about 10% of the rain that they typically get at this time. Now, in the past 2 years, they've gotten actually more than they typically get. So the vegetation is actually also slightly more grown than normal. So between there not being as much rain as they should typically have at this time to help.
Foliage on top of it.
There's also a lot more foliage that is not helping the situation as well. So the fires are burning. The first responders are out there doing everything they can, but there's not a whole lot from Mother Nature that seems to be on their side right now.
She's mad.
And this will emphasize something that we have to talk about, and we don't talk about enough, which is mitigation. When people go to rebuild, or if you have not been impacted by fire, you can retrofit. You need to have an eye on building a defensible home for yourself and your family. We have to get over this building the same risky structures in the same risky locations and expecting different results. First of all, it puts your family at risk. It puts yourself at risk. It's financially irresponsible. It puts undue pressure on the insurance industry, and the insurance industry doesn't need any more undue pressure. Certainly would like to see them do more with incentivizing people to mitigate by offering premium discounts. But look, if we're talking about fire, you have to have a defensible space around your house where I think it's something like 30 feet where there's no actual vegetation or there is fire resistant vegetation. You have to have special, there's a certain type of a cloth or a material to cover the vents in your house, because embers start a large amount of fires. So the air intakes, et cetera, should have some type of a screening over it to block embers. fire-resistant roofing materials, fire-resisting. And guess what? This stuff costs extra money. Tough shit. Pay the extra money. I will tell you, having lived through a natural disaster, nothing is more expensive, both emotionally and financially, than having to rebuild your whole life and take years to do it. You spend pennies on the dollar to mitigate your residence, and certainly it is worth every penny. Like, listen, I'm like everyone else. I'm cheap. If you talked to me the day before my house got wiped out and said, hey, spend $10 on mitigating, I would have said, nope, too expensive. If you asked me now, I would go back and have cashed in my 401k and all of my savings and everything I owned, maybe sold one of my kids to be able to protect my home and make sure I did not go through the disaster that I did, because it is brutal and it is devastating, and there's no amount of money that's going to make it right what you have to go through. But you can certainly spend some of the resources, spend a little extra to get fire resistant roofing materials, or if you're in a wind zone, whatever your dominant, peril is in your area, spend the extra. Spend the extra to elevate your house if you're in a flood zone. Spend the extra to, have fire-resistant materials when you are in a fire zone. It's simple as that. It's certainly worth it to do it. And if we're going to rebuild these areas, we are foolish if we're just going to use the same construction techniques and set ourselves up for the same disaster.
I think Florida is a really good example of that. After hurricanes, they've got the strictest building code in the U.S., and they really enforce it pretty well. And structures still exist at the end of these hurricanes as a result. There's still damage, but people are able to survive these things a hell of a lot more. So this is really good information. At this point, though, I think that we want to take a break and come back, and we're going to kick things off talking about insurance carrier fraud potential and what people should start looking out for if they are victims of the fire. So let's play this quick advertisement. We'll be right back.
One of the biggest areas that I got pain problems with is trying to figure out where my data is. Claim Titan is the most useful tool in your tool bag, where I can find everything that I need on the claim in just a couple of clicks. People love portals. This is the email section where you can manage all the mail for your claim. You can track your leads in the system, built-in calendar and scheduling, claim map to track all your claims visually, and the ability to automate just about everything in the system. You don't go reaching for a hammer to screw in a screw. You get the tool that you need for the job.
And it's Matt approved. Welcome to the hail damage identification on asphalt shingle roof course. This is perfect for new people. It's perfect for people that are seasoned, because we have so much information that the new guys are going to be able to pick things up as quickly as possible and hit the ground running. But the seasoned professionals been doing this for years. We're going to learn so much from a lot of this as well. By the end of this class, you should feel confident in defending your position, because you will have a lot more base knowledge than most of the people that you'll be describing this to. So you will be the expert on site. All right, we're back. And at this point, we still got Doug and Megan with the United Survivors Disaster Relief and the American Policyholder Association. At this point, I think that we start talking about what the victims of the wildfires need to start watching out for. They've got insurance claims. They've got a lot going on. They're already going through all kinds of trauma. This is the perfect opportunity for an insurance carrier to potentially victimize them a little bit more and take advantage of the situation. So we know this kind of thing happens. What should they look out for?
So here's our point with the APA. Fraud happens on all sides of the claims process. Unfortunately, it is not legally enforced on all sides. There is a segment of the claims market that appears to have an unwritten immunity from fraud prosecution. But fraud happens on all sides, even on the carrier side, which we call carrier side fraud or insurer fraud as opposed to insurance fraud. And carrier side or insurer fraud is fraud perpetrated by insurance company employees, and more often than not by the vendors that they hire, the engineering firms, the adjusting firms, the third-party administrators who we have caught multiple times in some pretty egregious acts committing fraud in order to reduce the claim that the carrier has to pay. And certainly this has a devastating impact on consumers.
So what kind of things should someone really be aware of if we're talking to the policyholder directly, someone that has had a wildfire and they have a claim? Will they be able to identify when potential fraud is occurring to them?
Generally not. Believe it or not, the people that are the victims of the fraud are the last people to identify that they were victims of fraud. And there is a piece of Matt that you could maybe show something on the APA website that we have created, but I'll do the holding it up to the camera thing, which is how to avoid insurer fraud after a natural disaster. It is a consumer guide that the APA distributes for free. You can go right on our website, apassociation.org, and go to tools and resources, and you'll see our consumer guides on there. That is one. And it will tell you specifically what to look out for, but, and also how to be proactive. Pictures are very, very important. After a disaster, get to your property. Again, do it in a safe way. Wait until the authorities have cleared you to re-enter the area, and certainly look for a compromised structure. But hundreds of pictures of damage from all different angles is critical. And if you can sort of combine that with any pictures you can find from photographs and social media, et cetera, of the way your property looked prior to the disaster, that's a good reference point. And then above and beyond that, understand that the people that your insurer sends out to inspect your home do not work for you. And what people don't understand, look, insurance, we're not anti-insurance. Insurance is such an important financial tool for the average investor to recover from a loss that would otherwise be devastating. But what people don't understand is at the time of claim, the interest of the insurer and the interest of the consumer are adverse. It is a zero-sum solution. If they pay you $1, they're losing $1. So you have to be very conscious, and some of the people they're hiring are very conscious of that. So when the inspector comes out to your house, the adjuster, the engineer, understand they work for the insurance company. Unless you have a public adjuster who works for you, but the other people coming out, they work for the insurance company. So there are certain things that we tell you to do. Make sure you get the pictures. Make sure you get all of the identification for the person that comes out, because the person that comes out may not necessarily work for your insurance company. For the larger companies, they may have that company's windbreaker on. They may have that company's laptop, but they're actually what's known as a third-party administrator. So get their identification, find and get, and I mean not just a business card, get a picture of their driver's license, and also get a look at, basic questions. How long have you been doing this for? How long have you been an insurance adjuster for? And please don't be rude. These people work under very, very difficult circumstances. Be nice, be friendly, offer them a drink, offer them to use the bathroom if the toilet still works, but, be polite, but also understand you're there to represent your interests. So what we tell people is when the insurance company is sending out an adjuster, an engineer, obviously you want to question them. What's their background? How long have they been doing this for? And who do they work for? Are they a direct employee of the insurance company? If not, if it's a third-party administrator, who do they actually work for? And we generally recommend, if you've engaged a contractor, if you've engaged a public adjuster, if you've engaged an attorney, that you ask them to be present during this inspection. And again, it should not be antagonistic at all, but it is important. Listen, the average person does one, maybe two homeowners claims in their life. Are you good at anything the first or second time you do it? No, you're not. And you're dealing with a team of professionals. We always say it's like, your first day of Little League when you're 8 years old and the coach tells you, hey, kids, we're going to go play the Yankees this weekend. Good luck. So certainly, if you have the opportunity to engage a professional to represent your interests, absolutely do that. But at the very least, document everything with pictures. Have all your conversations either on a recorded line or via email. If you have an unrecorded phone call, send an email afterwards to that person summarizing what your understanding of the call was so that it is documented. And there are certain things you want to watch out for. What we generally tell people is you go with your gut, right? The insurance companies, they have AI and they have comparative analysis, like they know the value of your house and the average water damage, what it would be. And if it shoots outside of the boundaries of those benchmarks, they know to watch out. But for the average person, you go with your gut. If it doesn't feel right, talk to somebody and question it by all means. A lot of people, you just have to trust your gut. If it seems like they're giving you money and it's not really going to be enough to fix your property, something's probably wrong. Certainly, even if it's not, it doesn't hurt you to look into it and ask questions. And there are many, many resources out there for you. But certainly look at that guide on our website, How to Avoid Insurer Fraud After Natural Disasters. And it's applicable on one-off losses. It doesn't have to all be natural disasters.
Mhm.
Right. I think one of the major things to be concerned about when you have wildfire type issues is going to be in the policy language. And policies have changed so much in the last 20 years. A lot of them are completely rewritten, where they used to be based on a standardized form with a few changes to it. Most of them are very, very different from any other policy that's out there. So you can't make any assumptions on what your policy has. If the insurance company is denying you coverage because of something that's in the policy, I would highly recommend you get a second opinion from a third-party individual, someone that has the ability to interpret that. That might be an attorney or a public insurance adjuster, or there are resources such as the United Policyholders, uphelp.org.
Excellent organization.
Excellent organization. And they can help you interpret things. You could reach out to Listen to This Bull, my company. We can help you take a look at that. There are Facebook groups for policy interpretation. There are a lot of things that are utilized against you because they make you assume what certain languages mean in your policy, because you're using plain everyday colloquial language, but policies are written in contract language because they're contracts. And the states are going to interpret it differently than you might interpret it in your day-to-day wording. It isn't written the way that you would normally speak. So you want to get some help, that kind of thing.
The saying is, the big print giveth and the little print taketh away. So you might see your declaration page that says you have $1 million of coverage, but there's a reason why all of those dynamics are on one page, and then there's 20 pages of contract language behind that. And I know the average person is not reading their insurance policy, nor are they suited by education or experience to understand an insurance policy. So it's always great to get a professional opinion on that. But understand that, because they say you have $1 million of coverage does not necessarily mean you're getting $1 million. And even though you should get $1 million in some cases, that doesn't necessarily mean that you actually will get it. You got to be able to advocate for yourself. You got to be able to fight for yourself. And certainly, engaging professionals where necessary is never a bad idea.
Oh, absolutely. So one of the big things that I think that you can watch out for if we're trying to identify potential insurance carrier fraud, one of the major issues is going to be related to soot, smoke type damages. The policies oftentimes do have some kind of a exclusion for pollutants. They might say silica or something along those lines. Very often, those exclusions only exist under the liability section of the policy, and the carriers may try to utilize those exclusions for the property side of the policy. I mean, they're not going to give you coverages even though there really isn't an exclusion for it. Only if someone is suing you on the liability side would there be an exclusion for it. So that isn't true for every policy. There is nothing that is true for every policy. So you need to get yours taken a look at. But if they start denying you for, especially I think after a wildfire, for pollution or pollutants or some kind of an exclusion like that, that should be a red flag to you to start taking a look inside your policy, getting someone to help you look in your policy to see if that is accurate or not. I think that's going to be the big kicker.
Yeah, and I don't think, we can overstate how big that facet is. The contamination from all of the toxic things your home was built with and that you put into it after it was built, once they burn, contamination is brutal. It spreads very, very far. It is very, very dangerous. And it's certainly a significant risk. And I don't think most people understand that or take it seriously. But certainly, Matt, I assume that there is a segment of the market out there that will evaluate your insurance policy before the disaster strikes, which is always the best time. And maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, I mean, there are individuals that would do this. There's no real major service for it yet. It is actually something I'm working on with Brelly, the AI platform that we're building out for policyholders to be able to utilize AI to their own advantage. So we want to put power back into the hands of the people so that they can take advantage of AI that can help them interpret their policies using current case law and other resources, and the ability for them to take a look into what the carriers have said and whether or not it is appropriate or not. We will have the ability for you to be able to upload everything and it'll spit out some stuff. This is something that's being built out right now. The framework is there and we're building in these additional features. It's not ready yet, but we're getting there. In the meantime, for now, for this set of wildfires, the best thing you can do is find yourself a public insurance adjuster, find yourself a insurance attorney that can quickly take a look at your policy for you and go through it with you. Or find someone that Brelly will be able to interpret policies at this point, but it isn't opened up for the policyholder side just yet. So you can find someone that's utilizing that program and take a look at it really quickly as well. There's a lot of resources that are coming, but for right now, organizations like uphelp.org, American Policyholder Association, public insurance adjusters, there are APIAs, there's a California Association of Public Insurance Adjusters. I think it's capia.org. I'm not positive on the website. Find yourself someone that is professional that can take a look at this and do it quickly. Most of these individuals will do it for free because they know that if you end up having a problem, you're probably going to go to them later on and secure their services at that point. So find someone you can trust like that. There's a lot of them out there. It's probably not enough, but there is a lot of them out there. Your agent might be able to help you. I've found that a lot of them don't really understand how to read policies as well as they should. But they should be, they're supposed to be able to. So maybe you could start there if you wanted to. I'm a skeptic on that sometimes. And there's a lot of great agents out there that definitely know what they're doing.
And listen, even if your agent doesn't necessarily know, they have resources at their fingertips that they should be able to answer questions about the product that they sold you. And look, the agents aren't the bad guys in these cases. That agent who coaches your kid's soccer team and sat at your kitchen table and sold you a policy and has to look you in the eye in the grocery store on Saturday morning, they want that policy to pay just as much as you do. Unfortunately, who makes the decisions about what and if that policy pays has nothing to do with your agent. It's done in the claims department, very far away and very much removed, and your agent has zero influence on that whatsoever. But you can certainly, have your agent be put to task to research any information or questions you have about your policy, because they may not know it off the top of their head. Not everybody can know everything, but they should have the ability to pick up the phone and get answers.
Yeah, that's great.
And Matt, I like to put the power back in the hands of the people. I think as AI develops, you're going to see more and more of that. The APA has a program that Megan helped develop. It's called AREP. And Matt, you even were in on the development of it. The APA engineer report evaluation program. And it's basically just an online program that you can take a carrier's engineer report, and it'll ask you questions. It walks you through it. What's it say here? What's it say there? And it will give you the red flags to potentially detect fraud based on all of our experience. That was the whole idea with the APA, which is, we all share our experience. And this is how we've seen people get cheated. This is the best way we found to defend people. And we put that all into this program. It's on the APA website. It's for free for APA members. And you can basically go on there, take your engineering report, and they will walk you through it. And it will help you to catch all the landmines and the potential red flags that collectively we've run into the past. And I'll send you a little report with all those red flags. Doesn't mean it's definitively fraud. It just means that here's something to look deeper into. There might be a problem.
Yeah, I agree.
And Megan was instrumental with that. And Matt, you certainly did a lot with helping put that program in place. And we certainly appreciate that.
Not really.
And by the way, the new version was actually donated by one of your sponsors, Eric from Claim Titan. So shout out to Eric because for free, he helped rebuild the version 2 for us and gave us complete control over it. And what a great guy. I can't say enough about,
Eric's fantastic. He really is. A close friend of mine at this point. So, Megan, anything to add to the APA Association side of this?
No, I mean, the APA is so wonderful, and I'm a champion for them. And if you need help, they're the people that can help you.
Very good. All right. Well, why don't we go ahead and shut this down then? These Breaking Bull sessions aren't supposed to be a full hour anyway. Thank you so much for being on with us. If you guys have any questions or concerns, you want to reach out to the United Survivors Disaster Relief. This is their website. You can also get a hold of Megan O'Shea, who runs the show for the most part over there, at this email address.
She's the man behind the man.
There you go. I'm not going to call her a man. This is the APA Association's website. This is where you find a lot of the resources, including how to combat insurance carrier fraud or see it coming. And if you need help from another organization on interpreting policy and other things, you can go to uphelp.org. You can reach out to myself at listentoThisBull.com. If you have some questions about policies, go onto our Facebook page, Interpret That Policy. You can find a group that helps you interpret policies there. There's so many different resources that are out there. Just put in the comments if you need some help with anything. And I know that everybody that watches this channel is a part of it will definitely help you out, including myself. Thanks a lot for being on again, guys. And we will see you guys next time.
Yeah. Thanks.